All right, well, welcome to hashtag I came to my senses. My name is Mark Bedell, Superintendent of the Kansas City Public School District, and I'm extremely excited to be a part of this simulcast tonight. Tonight, you will have myself as a facilitator along with Jauqua Wilkens, who will serve as a presenter. I want to get ready to get into why this is extremely important. As I've stated to you earlier, I'm the superintendent of the Kansas City Public School District. I'm in my fourth year of tenure, and I serve a school district that is 100% free and reduced lunch in a district that primarily comprises of children of color. And in most cases, many of our students live in communities where there is a tremendous amount of support that is needed, not only at the state level, but even at our federal level. And so today, what we want each and every single one of you to do is to really enjoy this show. We want you to utilize the hashtag I came to my senses. And what I want to do at this point is give a couple of shout outs. KCPS, that's the school district I work for. Of course, I'm extremely excited about our team, and we know that there are a number of people who are logging in to participate. The Latinx Education Collaborative, the Urban League, and the Mu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. So here's a couple of thoughts that I have for you all. As you know, every 10 years, we go through this process where we have to conduct a census. And let me just talk a little bit about how that impacts us as a school system. As a system, this is critical when you are in a high poverty school district such as KCPS. It impacts us in terms of the federal Title I money that we receive. Moreover, this school district uses these dollars for additional instructional staff, community outreach, and after school programs. If many of you haven't had an opportunity to look at our plan, our school district went to a tiered-based modeling funding system where we look at a tier of different variables and we try to provide funding to provide a level of equity in our schools. And so it does allow for us to address our equity policy 0.0 while also supporting our families as we work hard to close the achievement gaps. Additionally, census information impacts the National School Breakfast and Lunch Program. And as many of you are aware, we're in a situation right now where we're out of school, and what is funding us being able to provide breakfast and lunch for our families comes from the federal money that we receive as a result of the census counts. So it is very important that each and every single one of our viewers and listeners help promote the completion of the census. Now, as we get ready to move to this component of um, talking to Jauqua, I just want to highlight a couple of items because Jauqua is a phenomenal individual, and I know at this point currently working with the Urban League. Jauqua Wilkens designs and develops programs to bridge the gap for underserved communities through proven competencies, curriculum design, project management, staff and student development. She also has an extensive background in transforming cultures, building corporate infrastructures, and the engagement of employees. Jauqua, as I stated earlier, works for the Urban League of Kansas City, but she is the vice president of programs and operations. She is actively involved in the community. She is the president, which is a big deal, of the Mu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. She also serves on Mayor Lucas's 2020 Census Complete Count Committee, the KC Regional Census Complete Count Committee. And so we're extremely excited to have you join us as a part of this show. And at this point, I want to get started because you are the expert. We'd like to present you with a couple of questions that I think will be very critical to the viewers and listeners. So let's start off. Why is it important for us to complete the 2020 census?
That's a good question, Mark. So let me tell you that there is more than 675 billion annually state and federal dollars that are allocated to communities that are on the line. So getting to a complete count this census is critical for the Black and Brown community. Far too long, our communities have been undercounted and left out of allocation of federal dollars for roads, schools, and hospitals. And children of Black and Brown children between the ages of 0 years old lose if we are missed in this 2020 census. Undercounted children deny our neighborhoods and communities their fair share of resources to meet the needs of children and families, especially healthy baby and child nutritional programs.
Thank you. And I have a second question for you. That second question is, why do you think historically people of color, in particular Black and Brown people, have low participation rates?
So the huge challenge for this is that people of color are nervous about giving up their information. The bigger concern for Black and Brown people is privacy and confidentiality. People want to know whatever information they give won't be used to target them. Communities fear Communities' fears are unfortunately well founded. You have years of stories about ways that civil rights have been violated, and all of these have created a sense of distrust among the Black and Brown community.
Hey, thank you. And I want to once again remind everybody, please utilize hashtag I came to my senses. As we continue to move through the show, I have a couple of other interesting facts that I would like to share. And one of those facts, it goes back to something that you just said, Jaquay, around the undercounting of those that we really need to make sure are reflected. As I think about our school system, children under the age of 5 are the most undercounted. During the last census, it was the worst undercount of this population since 1950. So think about what that means. That's roughly about 5% of children under the age of 5, totaling about 1 million kids that were not counted. So if we think about how funding impacts our communities, and I know that you would talk about that a little bit later, ultimately there is a tremendous amount of money that's not coming our way as a result of that. And I think it's very important that our community understand that this is a very unintrusive process. I did it. It took me roughly 5 minutes to have an accountability for everybody that lives in our house. And I don't know if we have a screenshot. Do we have a screenshot that's available where we can share with our viewers what that looks like? And I, all right. So let me give you some more facts. I don't know if that actually popped up, but there's a couple of other facts. As I've shared with you earlier, children under the age eight in the range of 6 to 9, ages 6 to 9, were the second most undercounted age group. And experts at this point estimate that this year's census could lead to one of the worst undercounts of Black and Hispanic people in the U.S. And as I've stated to you earlier, in this particular school district, more than 80% of the student population in KCPS are Black and Hispanic. So this information is extremely important. I want to see if we're getting anything. I know that we have a chat, and if there are some comments from the audience, we'd love to be able to engage the audience. And I see that there's a number of chats here. I'm trying to get in, and I'm seeing some things. Let's see, personal page. Wait, do we have any comments coming in at this point? I see some people coming in with KCPS strong, but I'm not seeing any comments. So, Jaquay, I think at this point, we want to move forward, and I want to engage the audience, and let's see if this component works. Um, for our audience, I want you to respond to this particular question. Do you plan to complete the census, or have you already completed it? And if you have, please click the heart emoji for yes, or click the wow emoji for no. We're gonna give it a few seconds. See
Oh,
someone
I
now.
see the comment. She said she
Thank
took hers and only took 2 minutes.
Excellent.
That's one of my chapters members.
Right, we're getting a couple of other responses, and that's part of it. We want to see how many of our listeners or viewers are responding.
So, Mark, for me, it came on Saturday in the mail, and I saw it. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do it," and then I got to do something else. So the second time it came, of course, I hashtagged and came to my census and took the census. It only took me 5 minutes.
Yeah, and that's what I stated earlier. We took it. It took a few minutes, and it was very simple. And as I've stated, there was not a lot of information. And I know we had discussed previously that we were going to try to put up a screenshot of what a sample form looks like, and I don't know if we were able to get that up. So we wanted to share that with individuals to let them see how easy it is. So what I want to do at this point is once again remind everybody, hashtag I came to my senses. That's the banner language that we will consistently utilize. And so, Jauqua, I know that we had a couple of other questions that we wanted to talk about, and I wanted to present some of these to you. So when you think about the results of the census and how it's used, how does it impact or benefit our community?
Okay, Mark. So the federal government uses the census data to distribute funding to meet the local needs. The richness of this data allows the federal government to distribute funding to our most critical social programs directly to those people that are in need. So, like Medicaid, Medicare, Section 8 housing vouchers, Title I, Head Start and Early Education, SNAP, WIC, and low income internet assistance. So, being counted is very crucial for our community, and that make sure that we have an accurate count this 2020 census.
Excellent. Do you anticipate, and I'm just at this point asking you this question, do you anticipate major concerns around what's happening as a point of forms being able to get out to people to make sure that we continue to remind them as a result of us having to be in this position of a shelter in place? Do you think that any of the stuff we're going through right now with this natural health disaster is going to potentially compromise our ability to get as many people informed to fill out this document?
No, so we have until May 27th to fill it out on our own. After that, people will start coming around between May 27th and August 14th and knocking on doors. And in college years ago, I was a census taker, so we will make sure that we get as many people counted, if not everyone.
Okay, that's good to hear. And I know that we also, as I've stated earlier, in our particular district, we serve a tremendous amount of immigrants, and in some cases, some of our homes have multi families or multi generational families in there. And my question to you is, when you think about um, who all should complete the 2020 census, given some of those type of scenarios, what would be your response?
So every household should complete the census, everyone in the household. So everyone from um, foster children, grandchildren, newborns, adopted children, and extended family members residing in the home, even friends that are staying in your home, you need to complete the census for them. One form for the whole house.
Awesome. And I just saw someone when the comments pop up, and I do have to apologize. It's difficult for me to see, but I actually saw some really good comments here that one of them was, how do we make sure that our communities are fully, how do we, here we go, how do we help to make sure our communities do the census? And I thought that was a really good question from Miles Sandler.
And so I believe that we just we inform our neighbors, we inform our family members, our church members to please complete the the census. It is up to us to make sure that everybody is counted.
Excellent. So I'm starting to see some comments pop up, and I saw one from Kathleen Pointer. It went up and then it came off really quick. If you can put that back on, one of the comments from Kathleen Pointer, for folks unable to complete the census online, there's also phone support that you can actually utilize. If you can see here, HTTPS semicolon forward slash 2020 census.gov forward contact. So I want to make sure that we are some way to get this posted, because it's actually a long link, but this is also a way that we can reach out and make sure that our folks are connected.
And they can also call Mark 1-844-330-2020.
Okay, thank you. Here's another comment. What happens when people move?
So if they move, they can go online at that link, which is my2020census.gov, and fill it out, or call the number 1-844-330-2020.
All right, this is great, and I really do appreciate people sending in any questions and comments. If you have any others, we will definitely keep our eyes open and try not to miss those comments. I do have one more question for you. How can people complete the census?
They can complete the census either by mail. They can do a paper, but we prefer for them to go online by the information that is mailed to them. They've gotten their information twice this year. If not, call the number 1-844-330-2020 or my2020census.gov.
Outstanding. So I had a couple of other items as I continue to engage the audience that I felt were very important. And this is just some critical data that's pretty much at this point provided by the city. It's as of today, April 15th, the United States completion rate for a census is 48.6%. Missouri is at 50%. Kansas City is at 45.8% at this current point. And so one of the things that I think is important for us to note is that the KC response rate is below the state average. So I know that you have experience with this, Jauqua, and I wasn't here, so I don't have this kind of data. But I know that a big reason why we're doing this right now is historically we've continued to have a number of our communities not have the completions that we need. And is that a big reason why we're doing this today?
Yes, that is why the regional census complete committee that I sit on, as well as the mayors, we are pushing a lot of promotion on the radios just to remind people to complete the census. And this is a creative way that also to use is to get on Facebook Live, social media, because that's where we know everyone is at right now since they're at home, and to do this so they can complete the census, get them informed, get them engaged.
Hey, outstanding. Sharon Hayes, this may pop off, and if it pops off, I apologize. She said, can we remind teachers that they make weekly calls to tell parents the importance to complete the hashtag 2020 census? So here's what I'll share with you. We'll do that. I actually have staff that's on. Kathleen Pointer is one of my staff members. She does our government relations assignment and in working here to help the school district advocate for local support. And one of the things that I will tell you is she's also a part of that census committee that the mayor has assembled. And what we will do is we'll make sure that we put notification out. And secondly, I just recently had a board meeting to give our board an update on our response to what's happening with the pandemic. And one of my board members said that two of my board members, there were things that they were already working on to try to help support in making sure that our community is aware, and that there are a tremendous amount of handouts that will be available to remind people. So we can do both. We can also, because we serve the lunch and the breakfast sacks, we can make sure that we put communication also in those bags that as parents come and pick those up so that they can remember that they need to complete the census. So that was an excellent question. We're definitely looking forward to seeing a few more questions. I wanted to also give you some more specific data as it may pertain to your particular community. Because if you're in here listening, we all have a responsibility. It's almost like, am I my brother's keeper? And how do we go out and make sure that we're lifting our community as a whole? So if you think about our districts and if you have been following what's been reported on the news and by the health department, we all have our big concern at this point is that we have a disparity in the amount of people that are being impacted by this virus, in particular in the 3rd and 5th district. And so we know that when we think about income, when we think about access to affordable housing, when we think about access to health care, access to the economic development activities that allow for you to have communities be revitalized, these are communities right now that we know that we have a lot of work to do as a city to help lift up. And it's all of our responsibility, but we also have to make sure that we help give these people voice. And I would tell you, I will give you some information around what percentage by communities at this point, because someone just put this question on, is there a graph or breakdown by communities to indicate the percentages of those Kansas Cityans who have already completed the census? The answer is yes. Jauqua, I don't know if you want to answer it. I have it if you want me to shoot. So
Yeah,
I'll give
there's a since 2020 census map response rate. It's at 2020census.gov, and we'll make sure that we get the link up. I think it's up on there so people can see it. So you can go there and you can see what zip codes and how many people have completed already. And unfortunately, the district that you're talking about is very low right now.
You're absolutely right. And so I'll give you a little bit of it here, but thank you, Yolanda, for placing that up. District 1 is at 54% currently. District 2 is at 50%. District 3 is at 34%. District 4 is at 39%. District 5 is at 42%. And District 6, we have 55% completion. Jauqua, if you could, what's the absolute deadline? What's the last date that we have as a community to get these forms filled out?
Well, we have until May 27th before the census takers will come to the doors, and then they'll be out between May 27th and August 14th.
All right. And so, as I've stated earlier, before we move over to our closing remarks, I would definitely want to remind everybody, hashtag I came to my senses. Please continue to utilize that in promoting and get more people involved. I also want to share just a few more items with you just around the school district and before we begin to do our closing remarks. As I've stated earlier, we have had a representative that's on and working with the Mayor's Complete Count Committee to support efforts to make sure our students and families get counted. While KCPS's original census outreach plan has had to pivot because of COVID-19, we are working to reach our families as we know many of them are part of the undercounted groups, and that's just a fact. We also know that many of our families may have difficulty accessing the census because of the digital divide. And many may be nervous about the census because of citizenship status or other factors, and may not have knowledge about the importance of the census because of language barriers. What I want you all to know is as a district, our hotspots are coming in. Our goal is to make sure that every single one of our families that need internet connectivity get it. We just received 1,000 of our hotspots that came in yesterday, so we're preparing distribution. We are already a one-to-one school district, so we have the devices to allow for people to connect. This week, too, we are piloting 3 buses that are in Wi-Fi deserts right now. And some of the stuff that we're learning is that in those communities, we're able to penetrate, in some cases, 200 to 300 yards. So what the district is working on is trying to make sure that we can penetrate further into the community. We're also making sure that we put we have already done this, additional access points on our buildings so that it can reach into those homes that are in close vicinity. And so the ultimate goal is to try to eliminate the digital divide. It's going to be very difficult for us to be able to continue to provide. I mean, in our school district has done a lot, and our board has been very generous in supporting us in trying to address the inequities that we face in this city, and in particular in our school district. But without us getting the accurate account of what we have right now, it impacts so much more. And as Jauqua said, this is about policy. This is about who gets elected, who gets to represent your communities. This is about how you redistrict and how you draw lines around those who will represent our interests. So it is important that we don't have fear in doing what we need to do to make sure that we get every penny that we needed within this region. That's very critical. So Jauqua, I will definitely want to allow for you to have a couple of remarks before we end up passing it on to our president, Dr. Lee, to move over to our next component of the show.
And so the census is a once in a decade call to action, a national civic engagement movement requiring the participation of every household. It is the background of virtually every data product researchers, government, and businesses use to understand who we are, how we've changed, and what this might mean for the future. And so it is critical that people do the census, hashtag I came to my census. And also, Mark, I want them to make sure that they join us over on Twitter after this.
Hey, that's outstanding. I had one more piece that I thought was very important because I saw a comment earlier and someone had made a very valid comment around what about the various languages? Because we know at this point that we probably have somewhere around 45 to 50 different languages that in our school district. And we know that the U.S. Census Bureau offers support in multiple languages. And so that is up here on our screen also. But we also want you to know that the district is passing out informational sheets in multiple languages at our food distribution sites, as I've stated earlier, to help our families understand different ways to take the census. And the bottom line is that people really need to understand that the importance of the census and that it is totally private, that it protects people regardless of citizenship status. Everybody needs to take this. That's the piece that we have to get out and we have to encourage our community on. So I will say this again, hashtag I came to my senses. As Jauqua said, we're going to get ready to move this over and we're going to basically pass it on to my peer in higher ed, President Dr. Lee. She's going to now move us to where we are moving over to Twitter at MCCPV and that's going to take place beginning at 6:30 to 7. Continue to utilize hashtag I came to my senses. I want to also thank Jauqua for a wonderful job today. And as we're trying to work through our technology, I had some technology difficulty. I would tell everybody, and I'm working from my cell phone. But guess what? The beautiful thing is we're all resilient. We can all bounce back and we can recover and we can go on to have a great opportunity. I want to say this to everybody. Was this information helpful? That's one of the comments. Please agree or disagree. We would appreciate that. I also want to give a final shout out to KCPS again. Thank you, Kathleen, and those of you in the district that signed in. Latinx Education Collaborative. Thank you, Edgar. Urban League, Jauqua and Gwen, thank you. And most importantly, my sisters with Mu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. We've enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you over at Twitter at this point with Dr. Lee.